today it's all about the mountain of value you're probably sitting on. You have no idea. We're talking about your intellectual property, a little bit about your processes and procedures, things you may not have thought as assets in your business, but they are some of the most valuable things you can possibly have in there. It's not going to be a long one today. It's just going to be lots and lots of value. And I've got an online resource for you later on as well through the QR code. And I'll send that out to all of you who are part of the Eventbrite meeting, those of you who are online right now. So let's get it underway. It's all about the mountain of value. We have a bit of a problem in our businesses that we sit on all this value, all this information, all this data, and we totally take it all for granted. We've got potential intellectual property in there. We've got frameworks we've been working with people on, amazing stories, transcripts from meetings, all this stuff, and we just overlook it. We collect it all. We've got it all there. We've got reports. We've got, frameworks that were built in Canva, and we do nothing with it because we're always chasing what that next big thing is in our business. What is the next sort of revenue we're going to attract? What's the next product? What's the next launch? What's the next release? When really there's a mountain underneath us of all the stuff that we're already doing that we're not finding any sort of other purpose for. We're not repurposing what we're already doing. And the closer we are to our businesses, of course, the harder it is to see our own value. So, I'm lucky enough to have a coach who points this stuff out to me and gets me to get so much more out of these webinars and meetings and coffee catch-ups and networking than I ever used to get before. So a story from a guy called Daniel Priestley. I don't know if you come across him, read a great book that's still one of my all-time favorites called Key Person of Influence. It runs a group called Dent. It's all about leaving your own personal dent in the world. And he was climbing through darkness for 6 hours out Mount Agung in Bali, and he was standing in front of this amazing sunrise. And I've done the Mount Agung climb myself, and it's just stunning up there, especially when you rise above the cloud line. It's a stunning, beautiful, standard, stratocope volcano. It's the one that was erupting a few years ago in Bali. But when he got to the top, he spotted this other massive mountain on the horizon. He's like, what is that mountain? You asked his guide all about it. How high is it? How long is it going to take to climb it? Can we access it? Is it going to be something we can do? And he smiled, the guide did, and put his arm around Daniel and simply said, Daniel, you're already standing on a mountain right now. You need to learn how to appreciate the mountain you're already on. And whilst this is a great story, and it certainly made me smile and reminded me of doing this very same thing, standing on a gung and looking over to, the Mount Batur caldera as well in the distance and going, wow, I really should have probably appreciated where I was even more. And it's one of my favorite spots in Indonesia. It's just such a perfectly beautiful volcano. But in business, the volcano we're already standing on, or the mountain we're already standing on, is full of so much potential. We're just not accessing it. And what I'm talking about is, I guess, a mindset shift. It always comes down to this, doesn't it? We think we've always got the right mindset. We've already got the right ideas, but reality is that we probably get one piece of work done. We pass it on. We get the next piece of work in. We pass them that. We get the next one, the next one. We become a bit of a production line where really it's in the products we're producing and the contacts we're having with customers and clients that gives us this big, deep well of knowledge and intellectual property. And it's all about not necessarily ignoring the future, but we're not chasing it. What we're doing is valuing what we've already done, valuing the past, because it holds all this knowledge and all this incredible stuff we've done. I have done something like incredible, nearly, I want to say it's nearly 600 videos on YouTube, but without looking, I couldn't tell you the truth. It feels like it should be around that. I've done about 12,000 designs on Canva. I have produced probably 700 different workshops and webinars over the last 5 years. Incredible amount of intellectual property is sitting right here on my computer, in my brain, in my files, in my Canva account, in my Gamma account, in my Chat GPT, all that sort of stuff. But I do nothing with it. And I have done a lot more with it lately. And some of those things I'll describe to you in a second. But this is more than just me going, oh, looking back on what I've done that's so well and I want to do it again. It's owning what essentially is my intellectual property, moving from sharing knowledge and skills in a workshop or sharing your skills in what you do, whether it's copywriting or whether it's entertaining people, to some kind of other thing that isn't what you do every day, but it reflects what you've been doing every day. Because what is obvious to us in our everyday, so for me that would be social media marketing, using AI, using these tools to broadcast messages, produce workshops and webinars. That sort of stuff's very obvious to me, but some people, they go, how the hell does he do all that stuff? How does he do it all? How does he manage to make all this work? And I've got this untapped reservoir of information I can share on that. And I've been very lucky and fortunate that I've got people who pay my way to do this as part of what I do for my work and my business. But it's not obvious to everyone what I do. So I've got this unfathomably big opportunity to be able to share that with the world in some way, shape, or form, in the form of coaching, in the form of educational materials, in the case of online materials, like it could be online guides, even a book. I wrote a book last year and I decided not to publish it because it didn't really reflect me that well. Also, documenting the journey as we're going along is something I've really learned to do, is starting to record more of the things I do on screen and then using those recordings to form transcripts that then turn into online guides or even books or written, or even in some cases, I can take what I've just recorded on my screen, feed that into something like Google's Gemini and ask it to create an infographic about that. It'll take some of that and create like a workflow. Or if you took a transcript and you put it into a system like Napkin AI, which is a free tool you can use to create things like mind maps and even things like diagrams that will actually show you an infographic version of the information you just copied into it. So some of those things, Napkin AI is very good at that, for very much like flow charty kind of stuff and mind maps and visualizing your text. And then Google's Gemini or ChatGPT are very good at turning that text into images, pictures, infographics. And we see a lot of those on LinkedIn and Facebook at the moment, where people are producing these really fun infographics full of detail and great knowledge, and taking the things they've done elsewhere and putting them into another format. Documentation we usually think of as administration work, right? We're taking it down our documentation to store it away for a rainy day. I look at it differently now. I look at it more as asset creation. You're creating lots of different assets you can use here, there, and everywhere. That piece of documentation or recording I took from that meeting, I could take the insights out of that, turn it into an infographic. That's a social post. Or I can go, I'm seeing these patterns through these meetings that I'm being into. I need to create some educational material about that. In fact, I might even release a digital product or a course that I could teach people through that stuff. And you might think, well, who am I to be producing this sort of stuff? I'm no expert. I'm just the person who happens to be doing this work every day. The beautiful thing about you being an everyday person and me being an everyday person is that we are way more relatable than the experts. The experts in universities and academics, and no one can relate to them because you're hiding behind titles and doctorates and PhDs. And while I'd love to have a PhD, I don't really know what real value it would bring me, but it'd be kind of nice to have one. But that's exactly it. It would put a barrier between myself and other people. So what we want is to leverage our relatability that we already have, those connections we already have, rather than trying to be impressive and having all these titles around us that really just put a wall in front of us, that people see us as far less approachable. So valuing your past, which is basically looking at the stuff you've already got, owning your IP by moving just from delivering skills and work to then leveraging some of that intellectual property that you own into other things that you could present or sell. Understanding that what's easy for you isn't easy for others. Documenting everything you do. And one of the easiest ways is using things like Teams and Zoom can do a lot of transcription work for you. But you get like separate transcription software. I used to use Limitless. They kind of got bought out by Meta, but you can go for things like Fireflies and Claude. Plaud is one of them. I saw another one online called Pocket. They're all very good for transcribing stuff. So whether it's your thoughts or the thoughts you have with others, making sure you're obviously giving permission to, for people to be transcribed like that. But then overall, using the advantage that you are an approachable person, you are a relatable person. Yeah, sure, some people won't like you, but also some people will. And if you're like me and your audience isn't millions and you can't serve millions of customers, you just need a few more people. And they're more likely to come to you, particularly if you're selling a service rather than a physical product you can touch and hold. Then you can only work with a limited amount of people in order to fill your days and fill your weeks. So you don't have to be liked by everybody, but the relatability means that enough people like you to build a business around. But this does take a little bit of a mindset shift, which is all about getting excited about the stuff you've already done. We're already excited about the future, about the new thing, about the trend, about the thing we saw some influencer doing on YouTube. But really, that's this future obsession about always looking for the next thing, the next launch, the next opportunity, always going forward, forward, forward. It stops us from digging into the absolute gold mine we already have right beneath us. And past has all these incredible moments, of lessons, of stories, of meetings, of breakthroughs, of testimonials, of frameworks that you've built. The way that you do things is your intellectual property. And all of that sort of stuff can very easily these days with AI tools and digital tools be turned into something more, something new, something like frameworks, newsletters, YouTube videos, new courses that you could deliver for people that can be free or be paid, or it could be anything like that. This is where the mountain lives, right? It's right underneath your feet of the stuff you've already done. So the idea is here, rather than constantly strategizing and planning for the next thing, you could actually go in reverse and spend a bit more time reflecting about what you've already done, what you already have, what's hiding in your Google Drive, what's hiding in your Dropbox or your email inbox that could be used and repurposed for something even bigger. So one of those things is that shift also from the knowledge and skills frame to the intellectual property frame. So the idea is, you sell your time for money. You are physically present in somewhere for a certain amount of time and you get paid a certain amount of money, trading your hours essentially for dollars. And it's a very sort of linear growth. Okay, you might earn a little bit more out of time, but as we're learning with the cost of living, cost of property, all that sort of thing, our wages don't keep up with that. So we need something extra. And you're obviously a very entrepreneurial person watching this right now. So you would understand it more than anybody that you need to build something a bit more scalable, things that work while you're asleep, while you're at work, that reaches people without you having to be the person that actually introduces them to it. Assets that have value over a longer period of time than just yesterday when you had that meeting. Things that can grow well beyond and way faster than your wage growth could, or that your hourly rate could, because AI and social media have made this much easier to reach people with, not just with our knowledge and skills, but with our ideas. And ideas are worth something. I remember turning up to a networking meeting that I flew to in Sydney many years ago, and I was in there for 15 minutes and I got exactly what I needed, left, go back to our hotel, flew out of Sydney the next day, came back to Darwin. It was the most expensive networking meeting I've ever been to, but I met exactly the person I wanted to meet, got exactly the advice I needed and the way forward. And I brought that back to Darwin and then got on with it. It was very, very worthwhile. People will pay to access great knowledge, to get shortcuts, to get a fast track to where they're trying to get to. And that third mindset, that thing about, what's obvious for you is not obvious for everyone. Some things are so effortless for some people that seem almost impossible. For me, writing is effortless. I love doing it. It takes no effort at all. It just flows out, right? But others don't. It's not common sense to them. So what we do is, rather than going, well, I should become a writer for them, is what is it that I use as my process to learn how to write or to begin the process of writing? How do I break through that creative block that so many people get stuck on? That becomes a teachable skill, something for a workshop, a webinar, for a course, from a one-page download that leads to maybe someone booking a consultation with you. This is where you're taking it away from, I know stuff. I like to hide stuff so people will pay me to stuff too. I know stuff. I pass it on to people so they can see that I'm good at it, and then they book me for a higher value than what they would if they were just downloading something from me for free. Documentation being not admin, but asset creation means your transcriptions are solutions and frameworks just waiting to be represented to the world. Conferences, recording stuff at conferences, getting access to conference recordings allows you to apply it to yourself. These days, I get a mountain of stuff from the things I've watched in the past on YouTube. You can go into your history on YouTube and see the things you go, oh, what's that thing I watched 3 months ago from that guy or that girl who spoke so eloquently on that topic? And you can pull that out, get the transcript from it, design yourself a learning guide in ChatGPT, and you can then start to apply that, because every story you or anyone else has documented or recorded or broadcast or put up on YouTube or even put on TikTok is something that you can capture. So think about, if you're capturing all those other people's stuff, you should be probably capturing your own. It's not paperwork. It's an asset that you now have access to. And this is how I've been able to definitely increase the amount of stuff I'm pumping out without increasing the time I'm spending on it, because I'm just digging into what I've already done, heard, watched, seen, listened to, and then dragging that into a new framework that I go, okay, this is what I've learned from it. I've now tested, I've now tried it. This worked. Okay, now I can teach others how to do that. Relatable beats impressive. There was a podcast, Daniel Priestley, the guy I was talking about before. It's a guy on the left here. And then you got Stephen Bartlett, probably a little bit more famous on the right. Daniel's was on an episode of Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO Story podcast, and it had 2 to 3 million views within a couple of months. You know? But a billionaire who'd built a multi-dollar unicorn business had just between 300,000 and 400,000 views. So it was very, very different. And the whole reason why Stephen told Daniel that you were relatable, and relatable beats impressive. This is a big mindset shift you have to go through, getting away from this idea that you have to be a superstar and super popular and all that. A bald middle-aged guy who's overweight and I seem to get a crowd to my stuff. Great, you can do that too, because it's just about being relatable and relevant to the people who you are trying to work with. And that's a hard thing to do unless you're willing to understand that polish and impressive and Lamborghinis and perfect holiday homes and all that, that's for the Instagram influence crowd, not for the business builders of the world like you are. The process is basically block out a bit of time to get alone with your thoughts. Maybe get out of the office, take a walk in the park, sit in a quiet cafe or even a noisy cafe, or you know, put your phone on airplane mode. Don't take calls. Don't look at social media, and then reflect on things that are already in your phone or in your laptop. That means opening up your phone app, your gallery app in your phone, and looking at all the things you've started seeing. I've got Google Photos, which is a great place. You might have iPhoto or iCloud where you can go through those things. We've all got Google Drives and OneDrives and all those things. Go back and look at some of the stuff that's in there. Just block out even maybe 1 hour to do that this weekend, and you'll see this wealth, this absolute mind-boggling amount of data and stories and stuff you've already done, which you can bring forward into today. That's your intellectual property. It's not some, magical framework with a sparkly logo. Intellectual property is everything that's sitting inside your head or in your drives that you can then use again for other things. And then what you do is basically then start to look at all these things you save and put away as documentation. And I don't think of documentation like piece of paper. Think of it like documentary. Okay. When you watch a documentary, it's capturing real action, talking about real things. This is like a documentary of your life. If I was to do a documentary on my day, you would have the conversations I had at the coffee catch up this morning, the 2 coffee meetings I had straight after that, the conversation I had with my colleagues here in the office, what I did when I reported back to my partner about how my day was, all becomes part of that documentary that forms lessons and frameworks and ways of communicating. And you'll find this in all your stuff. It doesn't have to be particularly complicated or complex. Think about 60 months, think about, 5 years, right? Basically 5 years of content. Look over your phone gallery, look for the things that are in there. I'll send you all this stuff in a guide that you can take on. It's through this QR code. You can get to that on your phone, or what you can also do, just wait for the email to come through if you were part of the registration for this on Eventbrite. If not, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you'll still get that. You'll still be able to access it. And you'll be able to work your way through what these ideas and mindset shifts are going to be like.